Hi guys, welcome back. In this video we will be creating a pie chart to visualize our data. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is open our views.py file. So we are going to start by creating the functions that will help us create our dataset. So there will be two of them. The first one is going to generate our X values, which will be the field names. And the second one is going to generate our Y values, which will be our data values. So we will get our field names, which will be the DAM names. And then we will get our values, which will be the DAM level values. Okay, so let's create the function that will generate our X values. We will call it pie_columns. Okay, so the first thing that we do is fetch the DAM dataset using our model and store it in a pandas data frame. So the objects.all function will return all of our data and convert it into a pandas data frame using the fromRecords function. And now we filter the data frame and return only our DAM names. Then we are going to store the DAM names in a list. So the list will be called columns. And then the function will return the list of columns. Okay, now let's create the function that will generate our Y values. We will call it pie_values. So we will start by creating an empty list for our data values. So the reason for the empty list is the results we get from our data frame need to first be converted into integer values. So the way we create our list will be slightly different from the above function. So we fetch the DAM dataset again using our model and then convert the results into a pandas data frame. Okay, and now we filter our data frame by our DAM level values for this week. So we are going to extract the data values from the this week field. Okay, so right now the data is stored in a list, but the values are decimal values. So we need to loop through this list and convert each value to an integer and then store it in our data list that we have defined at the top. So it's for each value in this list. Convert the value to an integer and add it to the data list. So we will use the append function to add the integer values to the data list. So we only want to display integer values in our pie chart. Okay, so once we've done that, we return our data list. Okay, so we have created our X and Y values. And now we need to pass these two datasets back to our front-end code through our home view. So what we are going to do now is we are going to pass our data values to our front-end code. So we first pass in the columns dataset. So we will name it pi_columns. So this will be the key name that we will use to access this dataset in our front end. And then the value will be our pie chart columns function. So the return list will be assigned to the pi_columns key name. Okay, and now we pass in the second dataset, which is our pie chart values. So we will name it pi_values. This will be the key name that we will use to access the pie chart data values in our front end. Okay, and now we should be able to access our two lists from our front end code. So let's save this file. So now we are ready to create our pie chart. So let's open our index.html file. Okay, and now let's add the code for our pie chart. So it's new chart. And then we are going to pass in our pie chart canvas that we have created in the layout.html page. We named it damn pie. So we are going to create the pie chart inside of the canvas. If we go back to our layout.html page, we can see it defined over here. And this is the ID that we are using to access it. Okay, and now we are going to add the chart options. So we add a chart type. So the type of chart that we're going to add is a donut, which is a pie chart with a hole in the center. You can also add a standard pie chart if you want to use that. And then the next property will be our data. So we are going to start by adding our labels, which will be our pie chart columns dataset that we have created in our views.py file. So if we go back to our views.py file, we can see the alias name that we will use to access our dataset is called pi_columns. So we will use this name in our code to get this dataset. So first we want to pass the labels as a list. So we create a list. Okay, so we create a for loop to loop through our pi columns list, and then we extract each value. So we add two curly braces to access the value, and then we add a comma next to it. So the reason for adding the comma is because we are building the list, so each item should be separated by a comma in the list. And then we end our for loop. And then we add a comma at the end of the list because we need to add a second item inside of the data property. So the first item is the labels, which is our columns. Then the next will be our dataset, which will be our pie chart values dataset. Okay, so let's add the dataset. Okay, so inside our datasets property, we add its own sub-label. We will call it this week damn levels percentage. And then the next property that we are going to add is a background color. So this represents the color of each slice of the pie chart. And it's going to be the same color as the circle markers that we have plotted on our map. So these are the colors for each slice of the pie chart, and they match the color of each point on the map. Okay, and then we add the data. So we are going to use the Django Template Engine again to get our pi values. So again, we are going to store the values in a list. Okay, and that's it. So here we don't add a comma because we are done with the properties for our data. Okay, and now let's add our main chart options. So the property is just called options. Okay, so we add a title property for our pie chart. We set the display to true, and the text that we will display is just data. Okay, and now we can just add a semicolon to close off the pie chart code. Okay, so now we should be able to see our pie chart displayed on the sidebar with the dataset that we have created. So let's save this file and then run our server. Okay, and now let's open up our web browser to see if our pie chart has been created. Okay, so let's click on the data button to open our sidebar. Okay, and as you can see, we have successfully created our pie chart. And we can see that each slice is color coded to match the color of each dam point on the map. And if we hover over each slice, we can see the dam name and the dam level value displayed next to it. So for example, if we hover over the Berg River Dam, we can see it's got the dark blue color, and that's easy to spot on our map. If we click on the point, you can see its name is the Berg River Dam, and you can see that the names match. So our chart is helping us interpret the data that's displayed on the map. Okay, so now we have created our pie chart, and in the next video we will be creating our second chart, which is our multi-bar bar chart. So that's it for this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you.